live?
Right. The station where our veterans' voices are heard. MBR Talk.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. Welcome, Quack.
Program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
Welcome to Hot Takes with me, hosted by the Murph Man, where life gets real and the mic stays hot. That's right, your favorite is experienced dad, yeah. That smart and funny guy. From classroom chalk to comedy clubs, Murph Man breaks it down with brainy thuds. Parenting stress or college mess, he's been through it all, no need to guess. Insights are sharp and data's tight. Rants are ready and the jokes are light. Hot takes, real talk, keeping it true. From high school halls to podcast cues, laugh a little, learn a lot. Turn it up, this show is hot. Honest, funny, maybe loud. Never scared to stand out proud. When life gets real, the mic stays warm. Hosted by the dad with lots of charm. Insights are sharp and data's tight. The lens already and the jokes are light. Hot takes, real talk, keeping it true. From high school halls to podcast cues, laugh a little, learn a lot. Turn it up, this show is hot. Grab your coffee and let's get into it. No filter, no fluff, just real talk. Let's do it. Ready or not, here we go. It's the time for Murph Man to start the show.
Hey, welcome to Hot Takes with the Murph Man. I'm hoping everyone's having a great morning. I am the Murph Man, and we're here today discussing hot takes, college prep, parenting, and anything else that comes to mind. So I want to welcome everybody to our show. I do appreciate it. One thing I do want to say is our first episode is going to be the parent's role and how to instill study habits that last. All right. So the first thing I want to say is it's great to see people understanding that college prep starts as a young person, all the way down in elementary school. It's one of those things that it starts. Lifelong habits are so important, so important. So, before we kick off, I want to start off with a question. It's called the burning question. All right, so which of the following is an example of active learning? Rereading a chapter in a textbook multiple times, highlighting almost every sentence in your notes, teaching a concept you just learned to someone else. What do you think it is? I'll give you a second to think about that. Well, the answer is C. Active learning is a method of studying that involves engaging with the material, like quizzing yourself, summarizing, and teaching it to others. It's far more effective long-term memory with passive methods than just rereading. You know, one thing that I've learned over the years is as you learn something, you have to teach it. And I'll give you an example. When my wife got pregnant, I wanted to learn how to take care of a baby because, you know, we weren't planning on getting pregnant or anything. And so it was the last minute thing for us. And I wanted to learn how to have a baby and how to take care of a baby, how to raise a baby. And I asked my teacher, my coworker at work, if I could teach human growth and development. And we were able to get me into that class. So I taught it for about 2 years. And his first 2 years of growing up, my wife didn't work. She was able to stay home. I also got certified in common sense parenting, which, by the way, we will be offering those classes in a couple of weeks. I'm getting recertified for that. Um, and we learned how to do parenting. And it was a trial by fire. That's one of those things that when you ask yourself, what do you do to become a parent? It doesn't take anything. There's no certification. There's no planning whatsoever. It's just, you just do it. And they tell you how to do things, but it doesn't fix it. You know, everyone has their own opinion. I have my own opinion, and that's what this show's all about, my opinions. I'm not an expert in anything. I am a parent. I am an educator. I'm not coming up here to say I'm an expert on any subject. I am just coming here to say, hey, this is what we're learning. This is what I've learned, and I want to share my knowledge with you. I also used to be a counselor at the runaway shelter, and I'd work with kids and families who had a lot of conflict. It was sometimes a really, really difficult situations for the entire family to be dealing with this. So we sat there and we talked about it, and there is no right answer to anything. There is no right answer to anything. It's trial by fire, and you got to just try different things and see what works. And in my case, like I said, I was 46 years old when my son. No, I'm sorry, 36 years old. Yeah, 36 years old. Yeah, when my son was born. I'd asked my son. I didn't remember when I was born. Um, it's one of those things that you just never know um, what's going to happen. And that's one thing we learned growing up. He when he when he was first born, uh, it was funny because I had this theory that if I talked to my son in full sentences, he would learn to talk more eloquently. Well, as he developed, and I started teaching him sign language actually because I wanted him to learn sign language. Just one of those things. I had all these aspirations for my son, and when we started teaching him sign language, my wife learned it. My sister-in-law, her daughter, everyone was learning sign language, so we could teach him how to say certain things, and it worked. But we also spoke to him in full sentences. I didn't do the baby talk. If you know me, you'll know that I'm not one for the baby talk. I'm not one to talk like a little kid. I can never do that. The goo goo gaga, which I think is very important. I think that's so important for that. Um, and I was wrong. There's no way to say it right. I was wrong. Well, I wouldn't say wrong, but turns out my son had a little bit of speech delay, and thank God we were showing him sign language because we were able to communicate that way. And as time went on, we were able to communicate, do better, and then around 3 years old, after all the therapy and everything, he started talking. What was funny was at 3 years old, he spoke in full sentences. And I'll give you an example. When we were getting him evaluated, the doctor grabs a piece of paper and she says, looks at him, gives him the piece of paper, it's crumbled up and goes, trash. And he looked at her like she was not really smart. Because, like, what are you, stupid? And she says, trash. And he looked at her again like, what? And I said, mijo, she wants you to go throw the paper in the trash can. Oh, and he picks it up and he goes and throws the trash can. And she goes, that's the problem right there. His brain development is not able to process all that language. He understands you, but he can't speak it. And when you talk to him, that's how he's learned to listen to you. So we had to go back to basics. And before you know it, he was talking full sentences, doing great. He actually was able to go into a GT program. He went into a learning program in daycare, GT program in elementary school, which nowadays they say GT is more for people with ADHD, But I think it challenged him, and he used to have a hard time with it, but he eventually was able to come in and get ready to go to high school. Now, one thing that we did have to deal with personally was my wife passed away when he was 9 years old, and we had to move. There's a lot of stuff going on, but we ended up going to a new school. So in 5th grade, he had a new school, he had new friends, and it was difficult for him. So I wasn't the the parent I want everyone to be. I'm human. We had a certain understanding that he had to do what he had to do. Whatever I asked him to do, he had to do it, and that's something that he did. Um, it's one of those things that he never really questioned anything because he just did what was right. And as we went on, he eventually went to middle school and entered Spanish in the 7th grade. And another thing that happened when he went into, was it in 8th grade? Let's see, what year was 2000 when you were 8? 2014. No, you were born 2006. Okay, so in 2019, you were 13, 14. Oh, did it hit when you went into 8th grade or 9th grade? 8th grade. That's when COVID hit. All right. So yeah, so he started 1 year of Spanish, and he also took like principles of marketing, a few other high school classes in the middle school, and then COVID hit. And when COVID hit, everyone knows how that affected the social learning of students. All right. He had to take Spanish 2, he had to take algebra, business principles again. He ended up graduating middle school with 5.5 years of high school credit. But during COVID, if you know anything about COVID, the teachers were doing the best they could to teach, but the students didn't have the study habits needed to teach it. And that's going to be, the hot take for right now is, sorry, I knocked over my microphone. Um, the hot take for today is that, like in COVID, we try to do our best. We had to revert back to starting over. And one of the things we did was we leaned back on what we knew. And the social media, everything was new to everybody. The kids had to learn new ways to learn. The asynchronous learning is what it's called. They had to learn how to do it online. They had to know how to go and do work on their own. And if they did not have the study habits for that, they weren't going to do good. Well, guess what? I was home too. So while I was in my room doing my work, my son was next to me doing his work. And that's how we did it. We did it so that we worked together. And those habits carried on throughout COVID. And once he went back to school, I felt bad because it was hard being a parent during COVID, but I felt even worse when he went back and he had to make friends all over again. New school. He's in high school now. Classes are different now. He has to go from classroom to classroom, and all that stuff that he was just not used to for a year and a half. And that was a very big challenge for us. I'm sure it was for everyone else who's experienced that. And by doing that, he went back in, and I was a little more lenient with him after COVID. I just let him be who he was, and he struggled a little bit, but he took everything I asked him to do, and he eventually graduated. But not only did he graduate, and this is where my little brag comes from my son, he, as a junior, he was taking all of the advanced classes he could. So by the time he got to be a senior, well, actually, by the time he became a junior, he had so many credits, he was able to go to a tech program and learn cybersecurity. And that's what he's actually studying now at UTEP, is cybersecurity. And what's interesting is UTEP came and recruited him in junior year and said, you're admitted to our program. There was 1,500 students in El Paso that got selected for that program. And, he asked me a simple question. He says, why me? I'm not a straight A student. I'm not a early college high school student. I'm not any of those. why did they pick me? And I said, it's real simple, because you're doing more than the average student. I said, you graduated, you did tech, you're taking every advanced course. And by the time he got to his senior year, he had to take filler classes, is what I call them, because he had to just take classes because they weren't going to let him go home. If he still needed to take a couple classes, because there's 4 years of English, for example, so 9, 10, 11, 12, he didn't take 2 classes. And he took forensics, human anatomy, and culinary arts. And he was learning how to cook on top of everything else. That was something that he was doing. And it's funny because that's just something, he didn't realize that he was having it pretty easy. You would think he's having it pretty easy as a senior, but he was taking physics, he was taking forensics anatomy, English 4, culinary arts tech, and there was one more class he had. Oh, AV science, audio video production, which obviously has helped us here. And so, he graduated and got accepted, and he's going to be starting UTEP here in a couple weeks. So, I like to think that even though we struggled and had to deal with all of these other problems, we were able to overcome them and get to a point where we're able to go to college. And, one thing I want to think, like right now, you guys are here in the military broadcast radio. Being a veteran is a very, very useful thing. If you're, we will be talking more about this down the road, but veterans, thank you for your service, because I know it was a big deal for me to be in the service. I was in the military, and I saw some combat. I'm a disabled vet, and you would think, like, why, why does this happen to us? Well, you know what? I was able to enter into active service in Texas, and I was able to get my son his the Texas Hazelwood Act, and his college is paid for. So there's some benefits to serving, and you can overcome things. I do want to thank Military Broadcast Radio for having us on here. It's one of those things that if you're a veteran and you're watching this and you're not part of our network and you're interested in doing some podcasts, hit us up. H-Train will be happy to help you guys out with that. He's an amazing trainer. He's helping us get through all this. But I do want to do today's hot take for today. Okay. The hot take is the main event for today is parents need to shift from being the homework enforcer to an academic coach. Study habits aren't just flashcards. They're a mindset, consistency, and modeling behavior. And what do I mean by that? Well, a lot of you, I don't know if you've gone to college or not. When I was in the Army, I was a behavioral science specialist, and we went out and we learned how to do counseling with active duty soldiers. And when I got out, I wanted to be a counselor. And they said, well, you got to get a master's degree and then get certified. And I said, what do I have to do? No college. So I started going to college 2 years before I got out of the Army, and eventually got my bachelor's degree. And then I went to the master's program because I had to get a master's degree. And I went 2.5 years of master's program there at Sul Ross. And I did not think it was difficult because I already had been trained as a counselor in the Army. They did an amazing job, but I had to just go through all the stuff. And I learned a lot from my teachers there. I really did. I didn't think I would learn anything, but I learned a lot. And I got a master's degree. And when I tell people, I got a master's degree, I don't think it's a big deal because it was just what I had to do to get to where I wanted to be. So it's one of those things that, like my son, he wants to do cybersecurity. You don't have to get a degree. You can just go to college and, go get certified in a tech program, in a trade school, and get certified. You don't have to go to college. But what does it do for us? It gives us an opportunity to advance in our field. It shows employers that college is something you can stick to. So, I have a master's degree, and I don't even use that as an example for what my son does, because it I'm sorry. I don't throw it in my son's face and I got a master's degree, you got to go to college. I don't think like that. I think it's more of a, hey, this is something that's going on. So, we'll definitely do that. And you gotta set the modeling for your kids. You know, if you go to work and you're one of those parents that gets there late, or you're always complaining about work, you know, they're not going to follow you. They're going to follow your example and not be studying or doing anything with you. You know, but right now, let's go ahead and look at some of the angles and think about what we were talking about here. And before we can get this fire started, we need to do some prep. It's time for laying down the coals, and we will do that right after these messages. I'm kidding. We're going to take a little break, and we will be back shortly to discuss the coals that we need to lay down so we can start the fire. So we're going to be taking a break here soon, and we'll come back and we'll definitely cover that.
It's time for a vacation, and Fairway Travels is here to share great specials for you to choose from. Discover the charm and features of one of Sandal's 16 all-inclusive, luxury-included, adults-only resorts, or a family-friendly beaches destination in the Caribbean. Or how about a couples resort in Jamaica? If cruising's your preference, get Thunderstroke aboard Carnival Cruise Lines or set sail on an award-winning Royal Caribbean ship. Join Virgin Voyages now for a wonderful adults-only sailing. It doesn't matter if you choose to travel by plane, train, automobile, cruise ship, or rowboat, we can help you reach your dream destination. Contact Fairway Travels today at 228-365-1012. That's 228-365-1012. Or email bookitnow247@gmail.com. Fairway Travels, where your journeys keep satisfying.
The station where our veterans' voices are heard, MBR Talk.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. Welcome, Quack.
Program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
Restless heart, broken from the start, and you think that you must walk this path alone. Break away and love yourself today. You have to fight the bad thoughts in your mind, 'cause you will find your better off alive. Don't give your life away. You, my friend, you're worth it in the end. Don't give it all away. Restless minds, pacing all the time, giving in to someone's point of view. And over time, when you step back from that line, you see you're not alone, and we're all afraid. 'Cause you will find your better off alive. Don't give
too, girls.
The station where our veterans' voices are heard. MBR Talk.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. Welcome, Quack.
Program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
All right, sorry about that. Let's see here. Knocked down some stuff when I got up from the table. All right, so it's time for laying down the coals. What is that? That is where we set the standards, set the goals as what we're learning. All right, so that we can get on the same page. Now, when you lay down the coals, we were talking about the study habits that are required. I was telling you guys a story about me going for my my master's degree in Sol Ross. I live in El Paso, and Alpine's about 2.5 hours away from me, almost 3. So every Friday, I'd have to leave after a full week of work, leave, drive down to Alpine, stay there Friday and Saturday night, go to school all day Saturday, half a day Sunday, and then drive back on Sunday and go back to work on Monday. And I did this for 2.5 years. And, you know, when we talk about study habits, what do you think I did when I was in Sol Ross? Well, Friday night, I did the work I needed if I was missing anything. But Saturday, I'd get out at 3 or 4, go to the lab for a couple of hours, then go to the restaurant, study with my group. Then I'd come back to the lab, and I spent several nights in the lab until 2 in the morning. And there's my son, Connor. He's finally able to get in. But we had the lab that they didn't have hours, like they would let anybody go in, but once you were in, if you left, you couldn't get back in the building. But they didn't care if we were there all night till 4 or 5 in the morning. So there was so many nights I just sat there and did all my work so that when I got back to work on Monday, I didn't have to worry about what I was going to be doing to get my homework done. So that study habit, I wouldn't sit here and tell you I was a good student. I mean, I graduated with honors in my bachelor's program and a 3.75 in my master's program, which is pretty good. But it's not because of the study habits I had. It's because I knew a lot of the information already, and I was just applying it in different situations. And when I tell my son when he's going to college, I said, you're not working or anything. Your time at college is going to be to do your work. Do not leave until you're done with your homework for that day. Okay. And, I told him, I said, what do you plan on doing when you go to college? You're going to have like that hour break in between, and I'm going to tell them, don't do what I did when I first started college. I started hanging out at the student union, which is an amazing place at UTEP now. They have video games and everything. And I found out my way to English one day, and I just never left. And it was really hard for me to get through those first couple of years of college when I was going for my bachelor's degree. And it's funny because when I decided to go back to college as an adult, I was very mature and I had to do work. And, those of us who've been in the military can tell you, you go to work from 8 to 4:45, 5 o'clock, and then we'd leave there and go to college from 5 o'clock to 10 o'clock every night. So for 10 years, let me see, 97 to 2000. 94 to 2001, 7 years. I had a full-time job, and I was able to continue going to college and earn a bachelor's and a master's degree with honors. So there's some habits that are instilled in you, especially in being a veteran. But I tell my son, one thing he has to do is understand that his time at college is his time. He's already at the university. Go to the library, study, do your work, go to the labs, finish everything you got to do before you get further. And then when you're done with your day's work, come back, go home, rest, and enjoy your time. Okay? It's one of those things that going to college is not easy. And I want him, that's going to be his job. because I don't want him to have to full-time job and then have to worry about doing his work at college. It doesn't work that way. And he's studying cybersecurity and computer science, which is not easy. But what do you think, Connor? You always said you're a pretty good student
For math, when it comes to math, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And it's one of those things
that when excuse me, when you're at college and you're studying cybersecurity, you're going to study math and you're going to take pre-algebra, I believe, right? And engineering or intro to engineering. And what else?
I'm gonna be taking chemistry also, and
Mike closer. Chemistry is the other one.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
rhetoric and writing.
And then English, rhetoric, and composition.
Yeah.
So the pre-algebra, believe it or not, he has 5 classes.
5 classes on that, okay? He has his lab. Well, he has his class Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then he has a lab and he has a seminar. The seminar is taught by the teacher's aide. And that's just for one class. So he has to go to 5 different sessions in a week for that class. So it's a full-time job, If you think about it, 15 hours, I believe is what you have, or 17 with the labs. 15? Yeah. So, he has 15 hours, and that's his freshman year. And why? Because he wants to graduate as fast as he can. I don't know if you plan on taking any summer courses. No, hell no, right? But when you're going to college, I told Connor, I expect him to go to college and use the time there wisely so that he's able to just dedicate himself to it. Now, once he gets 1 or 2 semesters under his belt, maybe he'll want to get a job or not, but college is his job for now. And it's those study habits we talked about. Setting up those study habits is very important. Scheduling, reviewing your notes. I bought him his laptop, his tablet, a calculator, a really badass calculator, the TI 84 plus CE. It has Python programming on it. I don't know what the hell he knows about that. I don't. But he has all the tools he needs to succeed. He has his supportive parent, which is me. He doesn't have to worry about his bills because I take care of that. And all he has to do is focus on college. Now, let's see how he does. Well, part of what we're going to be doing after we're done with education and stuff for the podcast on the first hour, we're usually going to have the second hour. I have planning on having my nieces come in. I have one niece who's a senior at Texas Women's University. She's also the student body government president, right? Yeah, student body government president or student government president. I forgot what title it is. You'll get that from her. And then, so she's a senior. So we're going to hear from a senior who's actively involved in college about what she needs to do to find a job, And then I have my son who's an incoming freshman living at home, taking a very difficult program and see how his study habits improve over the year. And then also my niece who is going away to Sam Houston State in Huntsville, and she's going to study forensics and forensic medicine. And we're going to have her point of view, what it's like to be away from home as a freshman. And, that's going to be when school starts on, like the last week of August. And, but I'm going to see how they're doing and the struggles they're facing. That's why I think this is important. I made this podcast because as a teacher, a parent, educator, it's a lot of things happen that are going to stop you. They're going to prevent you from succeeding. And it's one of those things that, it's one of those things that he'll be able to do. And I'll be able to get feedback from all these students. And they're going to talk about how they're doing and what they're learning and the challenges they're facing so that they can share them with you. So you know what you're going to be facing, and we call it the modeling. So active learning, okay, is what we're talking about today. It's engaging with material, quizzing, summarizing, teaching, and the opposite of passive rereading. Connor is going to take math courses, and what I'm hoping is he enjoys it enough to where he becomes a teacher's assistant. And once he's a TA and runs the labs and everything, he'll be able to understand it better, because how can you explain something to someone if you don't understand it yourself? So you have to learn the material in order to teach it. And I've been teaching psychology for 23 years. Oh, 25. Oh, wow. Yeah, 25 years I've been teaching psychology, and at the college here locally. And it's one of those things that, you have to learn it. You always have to be retraining. You always have to be there and figuring out what's new in the field so you can share it and pass it on to other people. And like I said, that modeling is also huge. My son can tell you over the summer, I'm an educator. I'm off in the summer, and I spent hours, if not the entire day, sitting at my computer working on this podcast. I did a lot of things to get this podcast going. And it's one of those things that I really wanted this to take off, and I was dedicated to it. But as soon as school started, I'm focused on school, you know. So now I got to handle going to school and prepping for this podcast. And it's one of those things that I don't see it as work, because it's something I love. I really enjoy it. And that modeling that I'm doing, I'm hoping my son has picked up on that and is able to at least understand, hey, this is something I can do, and I think he will. 'Cause it's really important for your kids to have that. But now I do want to share a story from the fire, is what we call it. It's an anecdotal story about a student. Okay. And let me share this with you. I'm going to read this here so I don't get it wrong. Let's see how this actually plays out in the real world. Okay. Imagine a parent named Lisa. Her 8th grade son Marcus isn't taking school seriously, and instead of telling him to go study, she puts a whiteboard calendar in the kitchen. She starts putting her own work deadlines and goals on it. Then she invites Marcus to add the test dates and assignments. What happens? Over time, Marcus starts taking ownership of his own schedule, and his grades improve. Lisa didn't nag. All she did was model. And Connor, I want to see your face on when I ask this question, but he can tell you I'm always on him for one thing or another, right? But when you turned 18, you graduated. What has been my thing?
You've been more like lenient on me, and honestly, just like got it off my back a little bit.
I got off your back.
Yeah.
Well, I did more than get off your back. When he asked me, he says, I want to go out. There are 3 rules. 1, tell me where you're going, because I just want to know where you're going. Okay. 2, if you're going to borrow the car, I need to know, because I might need the car. And 3, if you need money, he has to ask for me. But other than that, I tell him, you're an adult now. You got to live your own life. But the courtesy of just telling people where you are, I think, is something that we just all grow up with. And I've instilled that in him for sure. I've told him he needs to just let me know where he's going, and then he can relax and go on and have fun. And like last night, it was funny because he kept waking me up. He kept sending me texts. Hey, I'm going to be home around 12:30. No, we're going to go to Whataburger. Oh, I'm here at my friend's house. We're going to be here. And he didn't get home till like 2:30 in the morning. But guess what? This morning, he was up on time like he's supposed to be. Woke himself up and was here. That's the kind of study habits and the responsibility and the patterns and the scheduling that I'm talking about. You have to hold yourself accountable. And I've been holding him accountable his whole life about everything he's been doing. And now I have to let it go. Like there's a story, a little poem called Even Eagles Need a Push. How do birds do it? Well, they have birds in the nest and they feed them right. At one point, they kick them out of the nest. And why do they do that? Well, if they want to feed, they got to come back up. They have to fly back up there and take care of themselves. Like the tree frog, once it's born, it runs up the tree and never comes down. There's some instincts, right? But you also have to learn the proper things that you're doing. You have the habits, the modeling, the scheduling that's so important. So when you think about Marcus and his mom, Lisa, think about the fact, how does that apply to you? How does that apply to what are you doing for yourself? What are you doing for your children? What example are you setting? It's one thing to have a job and be like, oh, I always have to work. I'm going to share a personal story here. After your mom died, I've told you the story. I don't know if you remember it or not, but I was working as a counselor, and I was driving home from a town like 45 minutes away. I used to work in a different town, and I was driving home 7:45 at night, and I realized I wasn't going to be at the daycare to pick him up at 8 o'clock. He's 9 years old, and I was like, I called the daycare. I'm like, they understood, because they understood some things like that happen once in a while. I was only like 10 minutes late, but that wasn't the issue. The issue was I'm working all these hours, and my son's in daycare. 2 months after his mom dies. It's like, no, this is not the life I want. And I asked to be let go, basically, and my company was very nice to me and gave me a very good separation. I was able to get unemployment for a little while. Eventually, I took a job as a parenting liaison part-time. And when I got interviewed for that job, they told me, like, this is a job for like a high school, person graduating high school or someone that has no education, right? I'm like, yeah, I just want to get into the school district. I said, I teach at the college. And, it was really funny because one time at work, they put out an email to the teachers, like, who's missing a graduation gown for graduation, right? And I wrote back and I replied all. I hate that reply all button. That sucks. But I replied all by mistake, and I wrote, I need a graduation gown for this degree. And they wrote me back and they said, it's only for teachers. And then I started getting all these replies from people. What do you mean you have a master's degree? And I had to explain, and like I'm telling you now, I had to do so much explaining because I had a master's degree working a job that was paying me $7.25 an hour, minimum wage. And actually, I think it was closer to 10 by the time they put me full time. But I had to tell people, I just took this break from life. And I eventually, started working at a school, became a military liaison, was working on my certification to be a teacher. Now I'm working with the charter school, work from home, and still teaching at the college. And I've just shown my son the perseverance it takes to succeed when we're overcoming obstacles. And I hope you've learned that lesson. When he was younger, I always told him he was a quitter. And it wasn't me being a tough dad. I don't like quitters. But he wasn't a quitter. Like, I don't want to do it. But like I told you earlier, whenever I said, you got to do this, we would, and it was funny because one time I finally, because of my job and my schedule, it's really hard for him to get into sports and stuff. And I put him in Pee Wee soccer. No, basketball first. It was basketball. And the coach quit. And so he tells me, well, you got me into this. And I became the coach. So then the next sport up was soccer. All right, Connor, let's try soccer. And guess what? That coach quit. So guess who became the coach? Me. And guess what happened after that? No more sports. But then when did you start playing? 8th grade or 7th grade? Football. 7th. So I am against football. I really am. Concussions and everything, people getting hurt is not something I really want for people to do. And I wouldn't let him do it. I wouldn't let him join football. And one day the campuses were right next to each other. And the deadline came on Friday. And he was mad at me. He was not happy with me. Monday morning, I hear their school campus announcing that football sign-up has been extended for another week. And I believe in the signs. I'm not very religious, but I believe in signs, and things happen for a reason. So I let him get into football, and he played, up through college and everything. But I wanted him to build the skills because, again, we hadn't played football ever. So we got into a flag football league, and guess what? Yes, I was the coach. But this time we got, uh, I guess you could say second place. We lost in the championship, right? But I took the team to the championship the first time, and it was funny because Connor, who really had never played football or anything, we had this one time that we played a team. They were like the worst team in the league, and I did not, because once you get to the score, which was 40, once you get 40-0, they shut the game down, and that it was happening too quickly. So I told all the kids, all right, here's what we're gonna do. You all get to play whatever you want. Who wants to play quarterback? Who wants to play receiver? Who wants to play lineman? Who wants to do what? And they had all these different kids just having fun out there one day. And Connor, I don't know how, but he scored 24 points out of the 40 all by himself. I don't know if you remember that. He had 2 receiving touchdowns, 1 interception for a touchdown, and 2-point conversion. Is that right? Yeah. So yeah, and I told him, I said, you can do this. So then he goes to college and, high school, and he plays football, but he chose his career over football. And he gave up football, which I know he regrets now, but he dedicated himself to school, and that's what's so important, and, one of the things that he did was, and this is the next part of our podcast, the next step is the heat map. The heat map is the actionable steps that you got to take to get to where you want. All right. You got to set up that calendar. The first thing he did when he got his schedule, he went on Google and set up his calendar. So he has all his reminders. And once he gets the syllabus for every teacher, he's going to go in there and put in every assignment that's due. That is something he's just going to do because he needs to have those reminders of what's due and when. And also, one thing, Connor, I don't want you to be studying the whole time. I told you to take breaks. I want you to be able to go to college and have fun, right? What have I told you? Get involved in activities, get involved in the clubs, do all this stuff too, right? And, one thing, we're waiting on financial aid to see how everything works out. But next semester, if he's doing well enough, he's going to get his own apartment. And, the financial aid will pay for that. And he'll be able to do it. And at that point, he has to do it all by himself, Like last night, I did tell him, I said, if you were living at your apartment, would you be asking me for permission to go out? No. Well, then don't ask. You're an adult now. Do it. Right? But yeah, like one of the things that I recommend when I was a counselor and a teacher is the study sandwich, study for 10, 15 minutes and take a little break and then come back. But let me tell you, do not get on social media. One of my favorite one of my favorite apps is TikTok. And I tell people, it's called TikTok because TikTok, time's passing as you're just wasting it there on the app. But yeah, if you do, just like 10, 15 minutes and then take a 5-minute break and you chunk it, it's less intimidating, Also, with your friends, if you're in that cohort, talk to your friends. Hey, what do you think about the lesson today? What do you think about this? What do you think about that? Or do you have any difficulties? I didn't like this. I didn't like that. Or I really like this. And maybe y'all can help each other out. And as a parent, instead of saying, did you study today? Say, hey, what are you planning on reviewing today? Because it's one of those things that as you review it, you're studying and it doesn't sound so bad. Sometimes it's just the way you phrase it. And one thing with the common sense parenting that we do is you try to phrase things in a positive way. Like, for example, if a kid's on top of the table, you don't say, get off the table. You say, hey, can you stand on the floor, please? So you're not so accusatory. You're just there, And, but you can have the best laid plans. In the military, they say, all the plans survive first enemy encounter. And it's true. You can only plan for what you can plan for because you never know what's going to happen. Like, for example, I didn't expect my wife to pass away when my kid was 9 years old. That was never part of my plan. But it happened, and it's something I had to deal with, So our next section that we have here in the podcast is called Where You're Going to Get Burned. Common mistakes to avoid when you're talking about active learning and studying and whatnot. everyone's going to make mistakes. No one is perfect. All of us went to college. That first semester was horrible. It was horrible. I have people that I know that graduated top 5 of their class and drop out after one semester, you know, because college is hard, you know. But I don't want college to be hard. I want college to be fun. And it's going to be hard. I'm not lying, but, have fun too. Go to the football games. Like I already told my kid, hey, go get your ID so you can start ordering the games and everything, And he says, I can do it online with my student ID. Good, go do it. He said, I don't know if I want to go to the games. I said, you're going to go to the games, whether you want to or not. I would take the tickets if they would let me, but I can't. Also, as a parent, don't micromanage, because I did that. I was a helicopter dad because I was very worried about my son, and I wanted him to be the best. And I did a lot of helicoptering, and I micromanaged a lot. But when he got to 10th grade, I said, okay, now it's your choice. You've done everything I've asked for. It's time for you to do your part. And like he decided to go to do the tech program. He could have done 2 tech programs actually, but he just wanted to do the one. And as the years have progressed from high school, I've slowly been backing off and letting him make his own decisions and doing things. And we try to do that as much as we can. You also, one thing you want to don't rely on passive methods like rereading. Okay, that's one thing you got to do. Kind of rereading. If you didn't get the first time, reading it over and over again is not going to help you. One thing, and look at his face when I say this, use AI. He rolls his eyes. AI is so useful if you know how to use it. If you haven't used it, look into AI. But as a college student, you literally can sit there and ask it, hey, here's my notes, summarize it for me. And it does it. It does it. So one of those things that you can learn is just, yeah, you got to do it, right? Also, don't assume your child knows how to study. Studying is a learned skill, and as much as teachers try to do it, there's no way they can teach the kids to study. For me, it comes down to desire. How bad do you want it? Do you remember my school? I told you, 4.5 years of going to school after work, driving 3.5 hours for 2.5 years, right? How bad did I want to be a counselor? Really bad. So sometimes that desire and the initiative has to be there, because no matter, the old phrase, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. It's very true. It is so true, because you can't force a kid to study. You can't force them to sit down at their desk and do the homework and do it now. That micromanaging, and that is not something that happens. Your kid has to see you do it too. Sit down and like, if you read, how many of you read books, newspapers, or online stuff, right? We get all our current events from social media, which I hate because it's not always accurate. But I remember one time when my kid was younger, got on TikTok and he's been watching stuff, and he comes up to me and goes, hey, Dad, do you think the earth is flat? And I just said, shut up. I'm not even going to justify that with an answer. So for those of you out there who think are flat earthers, I'm sorry. That's my hot take. I don't think the world is flat. But when he told me that, I was like, are you serious? Like, why? And he goes, well, I saw on TikTok. Oh, shut up. And that's where kids are getting their knowledge from. And you think about it, there's so many different things that the kids are getting from social media that are problems. And I'm hoping that, we start learning it. And now with AI, it's even worse, because you don't even know if it's real news. So I tell my kid, go to a reputable source. Don't use the internet. Don't use the social media, because it's just, can't believe everything you see on there. And but yeah, you can't assume your kid knows how to study, because he may not know how to study, or she may not know how to study. Okay, build those habits in elementary school. Build those habits when they're younger, and they still have an opportunity to grow and do different things. But, you know, like I said, where you're going to get burned, right? We have the afterburn. This is where you reflect on questions for deeper engagement. So you're going to go home, you're going to talk to your kids, and you're going to say, okay, what are your plans? You know, what do you want to be when you grow up? You know, even people who are adults, you ask them that question. They're still like, I don't know what I want to be, because things change. And as kids, ask them, what do they want to be, and help them get there. You know, my niece, who's studying to be a teacher, you know, the one who's graduating this year, she did everything she needed to do to get to the point where she graduated, and she was able to do that. And, you know, she was able to go to early college, get her associate's degree. She's going to graduate from college here next year and get a job as a teacher and start living in. I'm going to ask her when she comes on, what's your goals for this year? Because it's very important to have that plan. You know, Connor can tell you one thing, I'm a planner, huh? You know, I'm going to brag a little bit here. Is that okay? Talking about micromanaging, one thing that I like to do is I take trips, but I don't just do like a 3-day trip or a 1-week trip. When we go out of town, we go for a couple weeks. We go one summer we went, one time we went to DC, St. Louis, and Atlanta. And it was funny because we were gone for 7 weeks. 7 weeks. All right. And when we got back, you know, people were like, how did you plan 7 weeks? I said, I don't know. I just did it, you know, but I obsessed over the schedule, itinerary, the plans, everything. And then that was in summer of 2019. And then what's it called? Next year, around 2022, you know, everyone's like, how do you spend 12 days in Vegas? Well, you know, you plan it, you know. And what's the other trip that we did? Vegas? What? Oh, well, yeah, what I was saying, but that trip, and then always gone during Christmas, so that's the thing we do there, you know. But make sure you model those study habits for your kids, and have a dedicated study space, have a dedicated desk for them, because to use it on a TV tray or on their lap or in their bedroom is not good enough. Make sure you have a space. Also, ask yourself, are you coaching or are you controlling? Because a coach helps them get to where they need to go. All right, so let's talk real quick about some heat shields here. Okay. But before we do the heat shields, which are the resource and recommendations, I'm going to take a little break and we'll come back.
Wonder what was going on inside the man in black's mind. Was he missing June? Was he thinking back when that picture was snapped? Was he wishing he could hold her? Did he know his life was over? The day that camera flashed the last picture of Johnny Cash. There on his face, show hard living and show grace, a story told in shades of black. Was he whispering a prayer through that cold and lonesome glare? The day the camera flashed the last picture of Johnny Cash. picture of Johnny Cash. The lines of life there on his face show hard living and show grace. Story told in shades of black. Was he whispering a prayer through that cold and lonesome glare? The day the camera flashed the last picture of Johnny Cash. Wonder what was going on inside the man in black's mind. The day old Marty flashed the last picture of Johnny Cash.
The station where our veterans' voices are heard. MBR Talk.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. Welcome, Quack.
Program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
All right, and we're back. We're talking about the heat shields. The heat shields are those things that, protect us from getting burned. Okay. And you want to dig deeper. If you want to dig deeper on your own, I got you covered. Okay. So here's some shields that I want you guys to think about. For practicing work, do flashcards, do Quizlet or Anki. Sign up for anything you can that gives you the quiz. Also, use AI. Like I said, if you tell AI, actually Connor can tell you this. One thing I used to do comedy, and one of my habits is I go and do the what's it called? I'm running a blink here. Oh, improv. So I tell my AI, I said, hey, can we practice improv? They're like, yeah. I said, well, here's a situation. And they're like, okay. And then they'll start doing an improv with me. And as I'm driving, I'm just talking back and forth to my AI. Or when I was coming up with ideas for the podcast, I was like, hey, I want to talk about ideas of what I can do for education. And they gave me ideas. And, well, what about this? Can I add this? How do you recommend I do this? AI helped me. And I tell people, use AI. And I know Connor's really opposed to using AI. But I told him, I said, it's a big part of what you can use. Use the technology that's available at your hands. Take your tablet with you to class, turn on one of the AIs and tell it, take notes for me. And when you take notes, you'll be able to refresh and reuse them anytime you want because it saves us chats and everything. So that's one thing to look at there. Also, there's a book that AI recommended because I asked it, what's a good book for it? It says Make It Stick by Peter C. Brown. And it said it's a game changer. I've been looking for it. I haven't been able to find it yet. I'm sure it's online. I've been in the libraries and stuff. Another thing is the Pomodoro timer acts like a focus keeper and keep you focused on your intervals. So use your phone, use your chat, your clock, your timer. Set it 15 minutes, 5-minute break, 15 minutes, 5-minute break until you're done. You're able to do that and you'll be able to get into the habit of studying, right? And of course, the one I already mentioned is the Google Calendar. Use the Google Calendar and schedule, use the to-do tasks, use everything on there because once you do that, it starts reminding you, hey, you got to do this. And trust me, one of the things I use it for is recycling day. We don't know when recycling day is, right? We always get confused with that. So guess what? I put it in my calendar and it pops up at 6 o'clock at night. Don't forget, today's recycling. You can use technology. All right. So think about those resources and use those shields to stop you from getting burned. But now I want to talk about the final burn. The final burn. All right. And that everyone was about time to bring it all home and bring it all together. Well, here's my last thing I want you to think about when we talk about the final burn. What's the final take from today's discussion? And if you remember one thing, make it this. Your kid doesn't need a drill sergeant. They need a role model and a planner with a plan. Listen again, not a drill sergeant, but a planner who has a plan and who has an end goal in sight and who knows where they're going so that you can teach your kids what you got to do. You know, we're going to, after this, we're going to discuss some more stuff and some more stories just between my son and myself. But, you know, I ask if you enjoyed today's educational part of the podcast, please subscribe, follow, leave comments. We really appreciate all of that. And make sure you join us every Saturday at 12 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Mountain. And we will be here every Saturday morning. And don't forget, you want to go from chores to self-management because that's what you want your kids to do. You want them to be able to take care of themselves and do this. So I'm asking you guys, if you want to learn more, please join us. But until then, I want you to keep your conversations thoughtful and take the takes that are hot. And take care and don't let life burn you. All right? So as far as this is concerned, we're done with this part of it. So I hope you enjoyed that. I did. What do you think, Connor? Did you enjoy that? What did you find most interesting?
I found most interesting that parents need to back up their kid mostly and let them grow. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Do you think
that's something that I did with you?
I wouldn't. Well, yeah. Now you do. I would say that's something you usually more do now since I'm 18 and an adult.
Okay.
I like the way you say that. As I became an adult. That's right. You are an adult now. Has that been a hard transition for you?
To be an adult?
No, not really. I mean, it still feels the same as like when I was 17 or something. I don't really.
Well, it was only a year and a half ago.
It's still the same though. I mean,
is it?
Nothing much has changed.
Nothing much has changed?
No.
Okay.
Well, you know, one of the difficult things we have to do is become that adult. And you're doing it. And little by little, you're taking on more challenges. You're being more responsible and you're doing good. Right? So it's one of those things that let's see as the challenges come up, how you take it. You know, right now, just so you know, UTEP sends emails, right? And they're sending emails that it's time to register. Why do you think I found that funny?
Because it's like almost full time already.
It's still too late, huh? Yeah, that's one of those things I told Connor.
Is again, because we know the system, right? I tell you, this one of the things I'm trying to learn is as we continue here with college, as we're preparing for college, there's this calendar you have to follow. When do you apply for financial aid? When do the semesters open up? When do the schedules open up? And it was funny because the kids in early college, they're going in as sophomores and juniors for the most part, maybe even seniors. Sophomores, juniors. Maybe a few freshmen. And they had an orientation for the early college students. And I asked, can my son get into that? And they're like, well, he's not early college. And they use the phrase called college ready. And there's certain things you have to be college ready, like your shots. Make sure you have your FAFSA. You know, make sure you have your Applied Texas application. There's all these steps you have to be to quote unquote college ready. Well, she looked them and she emailed me and she goes, hey, after I got off the phone with you, I looked up your son. Yeah, even though he's not in early college, he's college ready. and he can come to the orientation with the college senior, college juniors. So he was able to go in and get the classes he wanted at the times he wanted. Right now, if you look at the schedule, I bet you, English is only available like at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock at night, 7 in the morning or 8 o'clock at night. There's none at good times. So one thing, sometimes planning does help, right? But yeah, so kind of got into the orientation, and he was able to get the classes he wanted. And then what else do we do to get you ready for that? Oh, parking. Oh, parking is next week. Next week. Yeah, the parking. The queue is like 10,000 students if you don't get in early. I don't know how many parking spaces there are, but yeah, you need to make sure you get in there and get in the queue. But it's all on his calendar. He has to wake up early that morning. He has to go and get it all done. And it's one of those things that he has to take the bus if he doesn't get a parking spot. So how early are you going to wake up that day?
I would have to wake up. Let's see. I start the school day at 9:30.
No, I'm talking about to get the parking pass.
Oh, 7:30ish. I would say to get there. I'm not getting there at 6.
No, I have to work at 7.
Since I work at 7, I can get in there at 7. It opens at 10, right? But I'd get up even earlier.
Yeah, no.
Let me ask you a question then. How bad do you want to have a parking spot? Or how bad do you not want to take the bus?
I don't want to take the bus at all.
Is that not a motivator?
I guess.
You guess? So, I guess the way he says it, but you're able to do this.
And you're able to decide if you're going to get up early enough to be on the list, right? So I'm wondering if you sign in on my computer and I sign in and you sign in on your cell phone or something, if that's 2 spots or 1. You know what I mean? I wonder how that works.
1.
It's 1, right? 1. Okay. So you got to get up and sign in on my computer, and then you can go back to bed. I'm already awake, but I don't mind helping you out there. But if we don't get you parking, guess what? You are going to be walking. And the Army have a thing called, you've heard of armored personnel carriers, APCs and stuff like that? Like tanks and the armored carriers. We have a thing called LPCs, leather personnel carriers. You know what those are? Your shoes. You'll be walking everywhere. But yeah, so that's something you got to think about, right?
Yeah.
And then what else? I'm trying to think of what else we did to prep you for college besides getting all your equipment. Have you downloaded software on your laptop and your tablet to help you with programs you need for school and everything?
I don't know what programs I need in order to be prepared for that.
I have to wait for like the first day of school.
Why don't you ask AI? Ask AI and say, hey,
what are some programs that would help me like pass college?
So AI, or do an internet search. Go to Google and type in, hey, blah, 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 blah. What do I need? Do you have your school supplies? This is tax-free weekend in Texas. It's all tax-free. But I tell people, if you wait till the last minute to buy stuff, it's all going to be gone. Buy it throughout the year. If you're a parent with kids in elementary school,
start buying stuff all year long.
But yeah, so on a scale of 1 to 10, last year when you started freshman year to now, what do you think your college readiness is from 9th grade starting to now?
My college readiness, I think, would have to be my junior year.
Okay.
When I actually started like getting into it.
In a scale of 1 to 10. How
College
ready?
readiness? In college?
Right now, how ready?
Right now, ooh, 9, I would say. I'm not like fully
Sure
sure
that I'm like
A 9 is pretty damn good.
a little bit.
You know, yeah, 9 is really good.
What's up?
The what's it called? Yeah, but you know, if you think you're at a 9, you know, that's good. I think I've done my job to prep you as best as I can. No one's ever 100% ready. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You got to practice and do stuff. But I think we're going to go take a little break right now, if we're able to. We're going to take a little break. We'll be back with some more current events and hot takes here on Military Broadcast Radio.
Restless heart, broken from the start. And you think that you must walk this path alone. Break away and love yourself today. You have to fight the bad thoughts in your mind. 'Cause you will find your better off alive. Don't give your life away. You, my friend, you're worth it in the end. Don't give it all away. Restless minds, pacing all the time, giving in to someone's point of view. And over time, when you step back from that line, you see you're not alone and we're all afraid. 'Cause you will find your better off alive. Don't give your life away. You, my friend, you're worth it in the end. Don't give it all away. And you will find your better off alive. Don't give your life away. And you, my friend, you're worth it in the end. Don't give it all away.
Love you, Daddy.
Love you too, girls.
Good night.
The station where our veterans' voices are heard. MBR Talk.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. Welcome, Quack.
Program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
All right, and we're back. Well, one thing, I said we're going to talk about current events. I don't mean politics. I'm going to try to stay away from that. But current events, football. Season starts September 4th. I haven't been following as close as I normally do, but
Me neither.
But you follow a little closer.
Hmm.
What do you think about the teams that are going to make it to the Super Bowl this year? Who do you think is going to be?
Whoa, that's too early to talk. Are you serious? What do you mean?
Who were the contenders last year?
Like Super Bowl was the Chiefs and Eagles. I mean, that was the Super Bowl. That was
Super Bowl. But
What about like
the Detroit Lions?
Oh, we're talking about like playoff contenders. Well, I mean, the Lions are good, but they're not good enough because they do mess up a little.
Oh yeah, they always let people down.
Yeah.
All
right. So let me ask you a question.
Okay. For all my Dallas fans out there, this is going to be a hot take. For all my Dallas fans out there, if I told you that for the last 30 years it has snowed in Alaska, is that enough data to bet that it will snow this year in Alaska? All right. If it's rained 30 years, snowed 30 years in Alaska, Connor, would it be safe to bet that it's going to rain again this year?
If
Or snowed.
If it rained in the last,
30 years. If it snowed in the last 30 years.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. It's a continuous thing. I would hope that it rains. If not, then it's weird that it just stopped.
Well, 30 years of data is pretty good to determine if it's going to snow this year, right? So for Dallas fans, 30 years. They haven't done anything for 30 years, so it makes me think it's going to be different this year. Hey, how many of you know what an ABC fan is? Anybody? It's anything but the Cowboys. Anything but the Cowboys. Connor hates that phrase. I use it all the time. But anything but the Cowboys. Connor, what's your favorite team?
Mine's the Buffalo Bills.
Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, that made it into the playoffs, but then lost to the Chiefs, like they always do. I didn't like that.
Do you think they have a chance this year?
Obviously.
Oh my God. That's no question whatsoever. They're going to make it to the playoffs.
Last night we were talking about rumors that you guys were getting certain people.
Maybe.
Who?
We might get Micah Parsons. Maybe. I know he went to the Seahawks, but there were rumors that we were going to get Micah Parsons, the defensive rusher from the Cowboys, in trade for James Cook, our running back. And Terry McLaurin, the receiver from the Commanders. We might get him also. If we get those two, our defense honestly gets better because Micah Parsons is one of the best D rushers in the whole league. I would say he's one of the best all time. That's a hot take of mine.
The best of all time?
Best of all time receiver. Or best of all time what?
Defensive rusher.
Defensive rusher? You're full of shit. Defensive rusher.
Name one.
Mike Urlacher. You got Lawrence Taylor. Okay, he had 7 sacks in one game. That's the record. By himself, 7 sacks.
By himself.
7 sacks. All right. You have Mike Ditka. All right.
What? No.
These are all-time greats, dude.
Mike Parsons is better than that last one. Sure.
No.
Yes.
Okay, you know what they say about opinions, right?
Fuck my opinions or what?
No, they all stink.
Ha ha ha.
Yeah. So the thing is, You're a Micah Parsons fan, not a Cowboy fan, right?
Not a fan of him. I'm more a fan of my team, but he's a good player. I mean, there's no denying it. He has almost no flaws. It's all just perfect.
Wow. If it was perfect, Dallas would have paid him. You know, and
Give that to Jerry Jones right there. Jerry Jones is just not a good
general manager.
Yeah, general manager.
I'm looking to see where Micah Parsons has landed. Cowboys have not received any trade calls for Micah Parsons. So there was rumor he was going to Seattle, and now there's a rumor he might be going to
the Bills.
The Bills. Let me see what the trade rumors are.
You want to share your screen, maybe? Just show the audience?
No. Bills are named as the top trade location for Micah Parsons. How do you feel about that?
Honestly, kind of happy. We need it. We have some defensive tackles, but we do need some D rushers also at the same time.
So let's see what happens. Let's see where he lands. Who else have kept an eye on over the season? Jaden Daniels from the Commanders. He just lost one of his best receivers. But you're happy to get him on the Bills.
It's a rumor. I'm not sure where you're gonna get him for sure.
That was just a
potential trade from Sports Illustrated that we trade James Cook for Terry McLaurin and Michael Parsons.
And if that does happen, you're gonna be like, you said you guys need it. You're gonna be happy with that. But then you say he's not a great receiver for Jaden Daniels.
No. That's not what I said.
Not what I said at all. You're switching my words.
All right. I asked, do you think Jaden Daniels is going to be good without this receiver that's going to be traded?
Do I think it's going to be better without it? No, because I mean, Terry McLaurin's been in the league for a little while, and shit. I don't know. He's been in the league with the Commanders for a while, and now they're trading him for what, though?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Now, here's a question for you. Fantasy football. We haven't started studying the rosters yet because everyone's still moving. There's still trades going on.
Yeah.
But did you know that ESPN Fantasy Football actually changed the rules so that week 14 is now the playoff week?
What do you mean?
When the teams go to playoffs in the NFL, you never know who's going to be there. So they actually get like 2 or 3 weeks before the end of the season. So the teams are still playing. But what ends up happening is a lot of people get sit. You know what I mean? They sit that week, right? So, like for example, Christian McCaffrey. Let's say you have him on your team, and then the last 3 games of the year, they're in the lead and they don't want to play and risk them getting injured. So now your star running back is out 3 weeks. So what's important is this year, ESPN has changed the schedule to week 14. Why is that important? Because let me tell you who has buys that week. The 49ers, the Giants, the Patriots, and Carolina Panthers have their buys that week. And then week 15, you have no teams. So when they start the playoffs, 4 teams are on bye weeks. So any players you have on those 4 teams, let me name them again: San Francisco, New York, Giants, and Patriots, and Panthers. So think about that. Any of the players you have on those teams, they're not going to be playing the first week of the playoffs for fantasy football. So for those of you fantasy football fans out there, you may want to consider who you pick, because when the playoffs start, they're not going to be around. And because the teams are sitting people, they're starting the playoffs. And that's just going to be horrible, I think. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
What was the question?
The playoffs start week 14, and it was ESPN Fantasy Football. Those 4 teams are on bye weeks.
Yeah.
And how do you feel about teams sitting their players the last 3 weeks of the season? And how does that play into fantasy football? Because you can't have star players because they're sitting.
Well, I mean, I don't really have an opinion on that. I mean, no, it's not my fault. Like, he's a star player for a reason. But if they sit him, then yeah,
that's going to affect your fantasy football team,
obviously.
So think about that. Okay, fantasy football coming up. You got to look at what teams are on buys starting week 14, not 15, because 15 there's no buys. So normally we used to start doing 15, 16, 17 as our 3 rounds of playoffs and Super Bowl. But now they're starting in week 14, which has 4 teams on bye weeks. So keep that in mind when you're scheduling your teams, okay? Another thing is, if you have star players, you may want to find a RB2, QB2 that you can play that's healthy to have them in the final rounds and playing. Like that, the star players don't get sat if they're already in the lead. If I'm not mistaken, I think Josh Allen didn't play in the final game, or did he play? Oh, he did. He played the Kansas City Chiefs and lost, huh? That's gotta mess with you a little bit there.
Yeah.
What do you think about the Eagles' chances this year?
I see them going to the playoffs again, obviously, but I gotta see how the rookies are with like playing in the NFL for the first time, because it's different. I know they're gonna play rookies for sure, but I just gotta see how they perform in the first 5 weeks.
This year I haven't really heard any rookies that were going to make a splash. Like, for example, one thing that I looked at last year was Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams. I was so excited to see them come on and see what they could do. Jaden Daniels did not disappoint, but Caleb Williams, he's on the Bears. What do you expect? He didn't do bad, but he didn't do great. But what will happen this year? And one of the things that I think is funny is, do you remember the game between the Bears and the Commanders last year? The Bears took the lead, and the Commanders were driving, and one of the cornerbacks was in the end zone celebrating that they were going to win, pumping up the crowd and everything. Then they threw the Hail Mary, and he's on the tipped it into the hands.
Yeah.
And they lost the game. So, Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels played each other. Jaden Daniels came out on top. But this year, I don't know if they're going to be playing each other or not. But if they are, then I'm looking forward to that game, because I want to see what Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams are going to be doing against each other. Let's see. Oh, that's another thing. Week 1, first game of the year, Thursday night. The Eagles versus the Cowboys. Eagles are just going to trounce all over them. I swear. Let's see who else is playing week 1. Let me look here. We have the Chiefs and Chargers. Let's see what other teams. I talk about the Jacksonville Jaguars, right? They're not a bad team, but they haven't really been too great. But one of the takes I heard over social media this week was the the Dallas Cowboys are the Jacksonville Jaguars, but with a better fan base. They both suck. And you think about it, the records are pretty good. Let's see here. We also have the Giants Commanders week 1. That's going to be a good game. And then Lions and Packers. Ooh, you know who plays the Bills week 1?
The Ravens.
The Ravens. The Ravens. I am looking forward to some games. I'm definitely looking forward to some of these games. Right, week 1. The season's going to start off strong, I think. At least I think so. But how about we take a break right now? You think that'd be good? Take a little break and, come back for the final, few minutes of the show?
Yeah.
All right, y'all. We'll be right back after this break.
You okay?
Yeah, no, that's only 11:40. We're a minute early.
It doesn't matter. You said it.
But for everyone still tuning in, I appreciate you still sticking around. We got 46 viewers, which is pretty cool. So thank you for everyone who has been come out and supporting us. We do appreciate that. I hope you have enjoyed it, like our conversations. And I know there's, I'm a Cowboy hater, but I'm not so much a hater. It's just I don't have jokes for any other team. You could be ABC fan. It could be anything but Chicago, anything but Chiefs. Who else is a C? Carolina. Anything but Carolina. And then the
What are you doing?
well, I'm just gonna go on then. So so enough about football.
Okay.
One thing that you and I have been doing over the summer is we've been going to movies, right?
Uh-huh.
Out of all the summer movies we've been to, which movie have you liked the best?
Let me check.
You don't remember what we've been to?
No. Let me pull up the list. Out of all the movies that we've seen, I would honestly have to say Fantastic Four. That one was the best one that I've seen this year.
Why? What it was so good for you?
One, Doctor Doom.
Two, it's more of a movie going into Thunderbolts. Three, it's
one of the best teams ever known in Marvel history.
Better than Thunderbolts?
Yes.
Better than Thunderbolts.
I'm not gonna lie. Avengers was an amazing movie. The whole series of Avengers was great. But after Endgame, I said, where's Marvel going? And then a few movies came out. Thunderbolts came out. That's not a bad movie. That was a pretty good movie. I'm like, okay, this is how they're going to reboot the franchise. But then Fantastic Four came out. And I was like, this is the next phase, the Doctor Doom phase. Now, we're not going to give away any spoilers if you haven't seen it, but Doctor Doom, we already know Doctor Doom is going to go against the Fantastic Four. But one thing I liked about this movie is they didn't do the whole history of how they got their powers. They just gave a quick recap of it, and that was it. So it wasn't so much a remake of that. But what really was cool was it was the family dynamics of superheroes. And the only other time I've seen the family dynamics, can you think of what movie superhero has a family? My favorite character.
too quick. Searching for spotlights since I was 6. Hello, my name is Dream Too Big. Hello, my name is way too loud. My voice can cut right through the crowd. Got made fun of for it, but who's laughing now? Hello, my name is way too loud. I know I've had my moments and I've had heartaches. God is making miracles out of my mistakes. You can say I won't make it, and I can tell you that I don't really care. 'Cause hello, my name is going somewhere. Far. Lost all my words in a mason jar. Locked eyes with a stranger at the end of the bar. Hello, my name is You'll Go Far. Well, hello, my name is One More Try. I put too much stock in bad advice. 'Cause anything worth leaving is worth loving twice. You're never gonna leave the ground. You can tell us all about it when you come back around. Hello, my name is Get Knocked Down. Hello, my name is Stand Back Up. Keep moving even when it gets rough. I've given so much, but I ain't giving up. Hello, my name is Stand Back Up. I know I've had my moments and I've had heartaches. God is making miracles out of my mistakes. You can say I won't make it, and I can tell you that I don't really care. 'Cause hello, my name is going somewhere. Going somewhere. Yeah, yeah, oh, it's going
The station where our veterans' voices are heard. MBR Talk.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. Welcome, Quack.
Program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
All right. Well, Connor had to leave, and one thing that I wanted to bring up was the movies. We were talking about the movies, and Freakier Friday is the movie we saw last night, and he didn't like it so much. I liked it. It was a little overboard, but I liked it a lot. If you haven't seen it, you know, I'd recommend the movie if you like the Freaky Friday franchises. You're definitely able to do that. Another movie we talked about Marvel and everything, right? But was Superman, the DC. If they follow up Superman with something good, DC might give the new Avenger phase a run for their money. It's one of those things that you just don't know what'll happen. Another thing that my kid Connor, he had never seen the movies, but Mission Impossible, and all of a sudden he was like, um, he didn't want to watch the other 7 movies before because he thought they were boring. But he went with me because he thought it'd be cool to go see the movie with me. But we left that movie. He's like, "That's awesome. That is an awesome movie." And the other thing was we saw Final Deadline, Final Destination, Bloodlines. He had never seen any Final Destination movies, so that one caught him completely off guard. Karate Kid Legends. Okay. Well, one movie that we really liked, if you haven't seen it yet, How to Train Your Dragon. They did the original movie justice. They did. It's an amazing movie. So right now, the movies we're gonna watch that I would recommend are Mission Impossible for sure if you haven't already. Let me see here. Let me go down the list here. How to Train Your Dragon and Thunderbolts. We already talked about them. Final Destination and Mission Impossible, Superman and Fantastic Four. But one movie that I was disappointed in was The Naked Gun. It wasn't what I expected. It wasn't that funny. It wasn't anything, and it was one of those things that my expectations were too high for it, and I just wasn't happy with it. But the other movie that we saw online with Amazon was The War of the Worlds. It's Worse Than You Think with Ice Cube. Ice Cube, right? Yeah. Oh my God. It is just a straight up Amazon ad. It is stupid. The world is falling down around him. If you know the story of the War of the Worlds, the world's falling down around him, and all he does is worry about his kids, which I guess that's a good father, but at the same time, it just was not what we expected. It wasn't a bad movie, but it wasn't a great movie either. But it was a little worse than I thought it would be, based on the title there. And then, there's one movie I always talk about with my son. We walked out of the movie. It's one of the first movies we saw after COVID. And it's called Moonfall. I think, let me see when Moonfall came out. I'm not a big sci-fi fan, but, yeah, so it came out during COVID. It was one of the first movies that we got to see after COVID to go out of the house and everything. And it's in 2021, yeah. And I'll tell you, I liked Moonfall. That's one of those movies that I wasn't expecting anything from, and I liked it. I don't know if anyone here has seen it. But Moonfall was a really good movie. So, when I think of sci-fi and things like that, I expect certain things. With the horror aspects here, I saw 28 Years Later. That's a good movie. I haven't seen the others in years, but it's definitely something we can look at. To if you haven't seen the others, 28 Days and 28 Weeks, 28 Years is interesting. It really is. Upcoming movies that we want to see is Nobody 2 with Bob Odenkirk. That's one of those movies that Nobody. If you haven't seen Nobody, watch Nobody. That's an amazing movie. From Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad. Bob Odenkirk does an amazing job, and here's Nobody 2. And if you know the history of Bob Odenkirk, he started off in sketch comedy, and he's a comedian. So the fact that he did so well and he's such a great actor surprised me. Another one was that's coming up is Gabriel with Keanu Reeves. Is that the name of the movie? Yeah. I don't know if that's something I want to really watch, but I want to see it because it's just another Freaky Friday. They switch places. And then Watchers with the 17 kids who disappear. My kid wants to see that one. Watchers. And then Oh, there was one more we were looking at yesterday. We said we got to see it. Do you remember what it was? Hmm. I don't know, but yeah, the only one that in the near future is Nobody Two that we're coming up that we want to see. Let me look up here real quick if there's any other movies that I'm missing. Oh yeah, all the Avenger stuff. Avatar's coming out. I didn't want to see that one. Running Man, that's one. Now You See Me, Now You Don't. The third installment of the movie. That's one we want to definitely look at. I love that series. If you haven't seen it, it's an amazing one. Um, but yeah, so those are the ones we're looking forward to seeing. Of course, Doomsday, which comes out in 2026 next year. Looking forward to that. Probably either May or July 4th weekend, maybe Labor Day weekend. Oh, and Caught Stealing is another one that my kid wants to see. Oh, I remember what it was. Tron. Oh man, I love Tron. I gotta tell you, when I was a kid, I played the Tron video games. I was the best in El Paso. Nobody could beat me. I'd worked at the arcade at Bassett Center. People would come from all over the city to challenge me, and they wouldn't beat me. So Tron has a really special place in my heart. Um, and next, no, 2027, I believe. Yeah, 2027, Star Wars is coming out with their 50th anniversary Star Wars edition coming back out to theaters. So for you Star Wars fans out there, something to look for. And let's see, what was the other one? Yeah, I think that's it. Oh, here's one I want to take Connor to. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. They're bringing it back to theaters again. You know, they don't come up with anything original. There's all these movies that are reboots and remakes and everything, and I'm not so happy with them. But there's some that they're bringing back the original movie. So yeah, we'll see it in theaters. If you haven't seen Star Wars in theaters, that's a really good thing. I can tell you when I saw it the first time, that was something that we really enjoyed as kids. And the last movie that I'm going to talk about that comes out next week is Time Cop. I forgot the actual title, but Time Cop 2. So that's something we're definitely going to be looking at. So we're going to see Nobody 2 and Time Cop next week, and we'll talk about that in the weeks to come. See how we liked it or not. Also, the upcoming movies and sports and football and all things current in our lives. I'll tell you about. Right, but I do want to thank everyone for coming out and listening to us today. It means a lot that you took the time to sit here with us. Some of you sit here for 2 hours, which we really did appreciate. I hope you learned something about college prep. If you have any questions, you can email us at murphman@hottakeswithme.com. That's MURPHMAN at hottakeswithme.com. And we're happy to hear from you. If you have any questions or anything, feel free to send us a message. And that's it for today. So I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to thank MBR Radio for hosting us. We appreciate all your help. And I'm very happy with the support we've gotten here. So again, if you're watching this and you're not a podcaster and you want to start a podcast, reach out to MBR Radio. We'd be happy to have you. H-Train will be happy to hook you up with everything we need there. Also, next week, we're going to have another, I'm sorry, let me tell you what we're going to expect next week. Next week, we're going to have building responsibility from chores to self-management description. The episode is going to focus on how everyone takes tasks like chores and builds a foundation for responsibility, time management, and independence. It defines responsibility as the ability to take ownership in tasks and follow through without constant supervision. So it's one of those things that, I forgot which general it was that wakes up in the morning and the first thing he does is make his bed because he has to start his day doing chores. So that's something that we definitely, we'll be talking about next week, is how building chores and schedules leads to that responsibility for yourself and taking responsibility for yourself as well as your actions. that's also very important for everybody. Also, we're going to talk about the prep for college is coming up in a couple of weeks. So next week, it'll be the 16th, which will be 1 week before school starts. So we're going to be talking about that. For a lot of people, the kids are already going back to school, elementary and middle and high school. And they are going to be, what's it called? Thank you, Terry. Everybody, thank you for that. I appreciate the comments. You know, I'm glad you guys enjoyed the show. This is something that will get better as we go along. This is just our very first show together, and we're working out the kinks on the technology and everything. But I promise you guys, we will be doing better next time. And I'm looking at my video, and I realize it's not the best quality, but I got to figure out what it is. It might be the signal here or something, but we'll definitely look at that. And anything else? All right. Remember, hot takes, real talk and no fluff. You're going to get real from me. Nothing else. No one else will do it as real as I am. Y'all have a good time, and see you next week.
Ladies and gentlemen,